All right, welcome to the Australian Lawn and Garden Podcast. We have Brian from Toro. And Brian, before I ask you how you are, I have been looking forward to this. I look forward to most of these episodes because this is so interesting to me. But Toro, firstly, massive range. But we had a short call before, and I just want to say on air, I thought this guy's going to be good on a podcast from the 15-minute phone call we had. 30 years you've been working from Toro in so many different roles. And I think that your knowledge is going to be fascinating. And a lot of people love the brand. They're curious about the brand. You got a lot of new stuff. And so I'm thankful to having you on. And so thank you for that. And how are you? And while you're telling us how you are, tell us about your job and what you do at the business as well.
Hi, Luke. No, it's good to catch up, and thanks for inviting us on. I've been here a little while. Must have started when I was like 3 or 4. I think it's coming up to 37 years.
37
in
years.
Industry.
So you don't look a day over 33. So you must have started before your parents even met.
Started off back at Rover Mowers as a mechanic on the Toro equipment when Toro took had the distribution back with them, moved over to those in sales, and the RLC equipment, the professional equipment, the golf, and now product manager based here in Melbourne, originally in Adelaide. So I have moved around a bit, been here a while. So we look after a lot of products. So it's trying to keep your head around that sort of range is a full-time job.
Huge. And so your official title is what exactly?
Official title is product marketing manager.
And so you are across just about everything.
That is for equipment. So all the equipment, I look at what we bring in from as far as ranging here. Pretty much all the commercial equipment from the US we bring in. With our consumer professional range, we don't bring in everything from the US, but we have a smaller range suited to us for our conditions and our compliances and etc. So it's and sort of everything about that product tends to come through me, all curly questions.
Well, you guys have got, let's just say this right off the bat, and I want to talk about some really interesting mowers because people don't. We'll talk about this in a second, people, but some of their mowers are insanely expensive, and it's just cool to talk about. Obviously, they're useful and they have a market. Otherwise, you wouldn't sell a single one. But we'll talk about that in a second because what's interesting to me is you have like everything covered. Toro as a brand, I don't know if there is another brand out there, and this is not about talking about other brands, but it's just curious interesting that you can go from anything from a domestic, rotary mower, and as far as like walk behinds, all the way up to some of the largest mowers you could possibly fathom at some insane price points. And so you being across all that, I don't know. Are there products that this is just me and you talking, don't tell your bosses, but is there any product that you forgot you even sold?
They won't watch. They won't listen in, surely.
No one else is listening either. But is there any someone's come to you and was like, what do you think about this one? And you're like, I forgot we even did that.
No, never. I never forget price, never forget a model number. I've got them all in the head. I've got the price book open so I can remember them. There's certain products you know and work with, certain products you like, so you know a lot about them. Others, yes, it's a matter of I don't know that off the top of my head. I'll look that up. And those the lower volume ones that we don't sell a lot of or we haven't touched on. Through my career, I've done a lot of work with the commercial and golf equipment, selling those, and the RLC equipment, our construction equipment, even our mini diggers, etc.
That's true, yeah.
We've got those as well. I'm certainly from that bringing the product, not reasonably well, but don't ask me how to operate.
Too much. Well, you got sprinklers as well, eh?
There's a whole irrigation range from we actually own the Pope brand. So as a company, we do anything from a 5-cent fitting up to
massive gear drives and
$500,000 worth of golf irrigation system. So some massive range there as well.
It's like a one-stop shop. Now, I want to put some stuff on the screen. I will say as well that, like, about you not forgetting stuff, you must be perfect for this job. I have it all the time where, like, obviously we're contractors. We go out and do jobs for people, and we focus mostly on, this is just for people who are unaware of what I do, but we focus mostly on residential stuff. And every job we do is saved in a system, and there's after photos on every job, and the person who did the job, their name is saved, blah, blah, blah. So great system. And there's been several times over the years where one of the admin team would call me up and be like, hey, you remember such and such and such? And I was like, no. And it's like, well, you did their job. It's like, when did I do their job? It's like 8 weeks ago. I was like, oh, did I? So what's their address? And I cannot remember a thing. So I would suck at your job.
Yeah, I actually had one call. Oh, you know that email you sent about the blah, blah, blah. I'm going,
No.
when? Yesterday. Okay. You remind me of it.
Give me a model number. Give him a model number, and he's got it though.
Sure.
I want to talk about this. This is you're saying before, this is your most expensive mower. I'm chucking it on the screen. People, brace yourself. If you think $25,000 for a ride on lawnmower is expensive, and look, out of all due respect, $25,000 is a lot of money. Period. I've not got millions to spend on things. So, but if you think that's the most expensive thing out there, you're in for a shock, because this is a Groundsmaster 5910, right? And Brian, would you just like to tell your audience, just for curiosity, how much does this mower cost?
Look, you're looking at a couple $100K there with the machine. That's before you add any little extras on it.
Does it come with a Ferrari? Yeah. Like, what do we get for this price?
Exactly. You can't buy a Ferrari for that. You know, it's
second hand. I don't know the Ferrari market off the top of my head.
But this is a contractor. This is a council. There's a lot of stuff to mow. 17-foot wide cut. So you get one of these, and if you wanted to do it, say with 0 turns or a 72-inch unit, you'd need 3 or 4 of them, and then you need 3 or 4 people to then operate them. You've got maintenance. So compared to that, it's an out front. You're probably talking 4 or 5 times what you pay for the out front, but then the running cost, and that's the key. It makes sense in that area. Where you've got a wide area, you just need that productivity, and cuts down on labour's the big cost, labour and fuel, maintenance.
Yeah, and I can totally understand that. If you're paying 3 people's full-time wages plus 3 machines, the annual cost of that will far exceed something like this. But I guess you just have to have the job to need it. How long?
Yeah, exactly.
17 feet, you said it is?
Yeah, 17-foot cut.
How so much in real numbers, which is not American numbers, because I don't know, 17 feet is 30 centimeters. How big is that? 4.9 meters. I found it on your website.
See, I'm old school. I still feet. Actually, 16 feet.
Is it? Okay. Oh, I can't believe you lied to me.
Oh. Can't believe I forgot one spec out of the 5,000.
I know. I'm joking. But anyway, so 200,000. I want to show you this one as well. This is your Real Master 7 gang. I once got a quote for a 6 gang, and it was in this 6 gang. You don't sell that. A 3 gang? I can't even remember what it was now. Or you have 3, a 5, and a 7.
Yeah, usually 3.
It was a 3. It was a 3,100 model number.
3,100 Real Master. It's our surround mower is smaller.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was in the 60s. And a lot of people, I've talked about that on the podcast before. In the end, it wasn't the right mower for my situation. But this 7,000D, you're telling me they're $100,000. And the other one, by the way, has a cabin and aircon and everything, and this doesn't, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
And again, this is, I suppose, for large sports fields. Some golf applications, the golf tend to use the narrow cutting units rather than these. But some golf courses would use these wide area mowing. Again, trying to do this with a 21-inch real mowing, you need 20 guys out there, and it costs you a fortune.
Can you imagine? I have seen a video like that where online where there was a bunch of guys who are mowing a golf course with walk behinds in an area that could literally be done with, I think they're doing it as a joke, but it might have been like there was 10 guys all with walk behinds cutting a section of a golf course. And anyways, it was just a funny joke because I think everybody was looking at it going like, you could do this, but they were just doing it for fun.
Yeah, well, there's the classic ones from like the US Open and Augusta. We've got essentially they use our greens mower, 3-gun greens mower, because they're lighter and small and finer cut on the fairway. So they have half a dozen lined up in a row, just staggered, going down the fairways to get them mowed before the play each morning. There's some classic photos of those, and
I've seen those.
Just looks bizarre. But,
they're doing that for tournament stuff, though. Not for efficiency. They're wanting the certain play of the ball, and the grain of the turf. Not that I'm a golfer or a golf course person, gardener. But look, anyways, I just thought I wanted to start with that because they're fascinating. But what we're really going to talk about is we've got a whole range of new stuff coming out. A lot of people are very aware of the stuff you've put out in the past, and they're familiar with it, they know it, but we're going to talk about stuff that isn't even available in the country yet. And so people, if you're excited about that, we're going to get into it soon, just after this break. People, if you've been enjoying this Makers Month series, we're in the second half of it now. If you've been loving that, the reality is that has only been able to happen or been able to be produced because of the Patreons. You may not know this, but the work that goes behind the scenes is insane. We've been doing sort of 11 p.m., 12 p.m. finishes pretty much every day since this series started, and a little bit before that, to be honest, as well. And here's the thing. I'm not editing these podcasts at all. We have an editor now. So it's just a sheer amount of work. If you're enjoying this and you've been listening to them, we're not getting paid by the brands. This is trying to be as unbiased as possible. And so people, if you like this series, jump on the Patreon. We need that support because at the end of the series, there won't be any money left. So going forward, we need some of that support. So people, jump on if you're enjoying it. Become a patron. You become $5 a month, or you can give $5 a month, or $16.50. Now, if you say that's not within my means, totally fine. No judgment, no pressure. But if it's within your means and you are enjoying it, then go for that. Now, a way that you can support without the money is to share on social media. Help us get more people who listen, more people who watch. And anyways, I want to say thank you to those patrons because honestly, I can't handle too many more of these late nights. So thanks for supporting and paying for that editor. Anyways, let's get back in the podcast. So we're back. Now, you've got this whole new battery range coming out. Everybody is talking about battery in the industry, right? And one of the things that's interesting is the different takes and the different angles everybody's going down. What is the philosophy that Toro is taking to this? Like, what are the things that you're interested in trying to be really good at, or what are the focuses that you're trying to achieve? Because you could just grab some batteries off Alibaba, I'm assuming, chuck it in a tool, throw it out there, but I'm sure you're not interested in cutting corners like that. So your development, things like that, what are they talking to you about? Like, we're really trying to achieve this with our range.
Well, I suppose we've been a mower company for over 100 years, made zero turns for 35 years. So primarily we're a mower company. So, and people buy a mower, they want a mower. They want it to cut grass. Yes, you've got to consider, okay, how are you powering that? You're powering the steam, you're powering petrol, you're powering diesel. And battery is where the direction is at the moment for environmental noise, all the reasons. But at the end of the day, it is still a mower. You need to cut grass. So we've really tried to base, with our Revolution range of zero-turn stand-ons, it's based on existing units. Our Z-Master 4000, a grandstand, which is been out in the market for quite some time, with those Turbo Force decks, which are arguably the strongest in the market. So that side of it we want to keep the same as commonality of parts, where it's a proven machine. It works, and we'd be the leaders in the world as far as particularly in that professional range of zero turns. So building on that, you want to electrify it for I think all the reasons that everyone already knows
Hmm.
is essentially environmental, but yeah, they're actually much nicer to operate too. But that's a side point. As far as that electrification for reduced emissions, particularly out of the tailpipe, noise emissions, keep it quieter for the environment. But to do that, it is, as you say, you can go down the road and everyone's got a battery, stick some batteries in there, and away you go. But we've actually taken a broader view on this. It's not just one machine. It's not
Hmm.
just our zero turn units. This really probably comes as much from our commercial gear, like we were just showing. We've got a big focus on that. We've got to be close to the leaders in that commercial space, where they're using it 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. It needs to be used for 5 years, X amount of hours, so it really needs to perform.
Hmm.
Our greens mower, we've electrified that. They're 3370. It's all battery greens mowers. We've had batteries in our Workmans, and our Workman GTX MDX have got these new batteries we've developed. So we developed the Hypercell rather than relying. I mean, there's some good brands out there.
Yep.
Samsungs, Anadel's, all sorts. There's lots of brands, good brands. But if you then just take one off the shelf, 2 years' time to develop a new one, go, oh, okay, well, what do we do with the one? Can we replace our old ones? Oh, no, they're obsolete now. So I've started taking that in-house, developed one that suits our industry, suits our machine, suits the environment, and configured it in a way that we can use it across a range of our commercial equipment and into our professional equipment. So essentially, we've taken the technology from that commercial equipment that you
Hmm.
spend, we've spoken about the pricing of it and the requirements there. It's in that what we call our professional range for the contractor, because essentially they've got similar requirements. So these batteries were developed. Yeah, essentially all the lithium batteries start with that
Yep.
little lithium cell. You can buy those from pretty much anywhere, but it's how
Coles,
you
Woolworths. No,
probably could.
no.
But it is how you configure that, how you put it into your
Yep.
battery, and then the battery management system on top of that, which is key. What we've actually done is configure that into the size we want, and added the battery management system to that. And each battery cell has its own battery management system, which handles the charging and the discharging, the battery health, the monitoring. So, for example, the zero turns have got 10 of those in them.
Right.
The grandstand has got 8 of those, and they can be swapped out individually. So, if eventually one has an issue, you can take. Wouldn't necessarily suggest an end user do that, but theoretically could swap one in and
Hmm.
out. So there's real flexibility there rather than having to replace them all. There's also flexibility for us building different machines, because we can, like the GTX Workman vehicle, I think it's got 1 or 2 of them in, and then you can have the option of expanding for another one in there. So the average person using it for run around probably only needs the one. Others who are doing a little bit of towing, a hillier course or a hillier environment they're using, they can put a couple in there to get the better run time. So we can allow that flexibility of adding batteries in certain machines.
So it really sounds like you've gone down the path of not just wanting to take stuff off the shelf and put it on what you've already got existing. You wanted to differentiate the Toro range from other businesses or other competitors by doing things in house, making it something that was unique. And I guess having that be an attractive proposition to people,
Mm.
because you do get nervous with these new technologies, like especially like people might say, like let's say like a Honda engine, right? Or a Briggs and Stratton engine that have been around forever. Not just to name brands, but you get the idea, right? Like
Yeah.
people you might look at a machine and go, it's got this brand. I know that brand's good, cool, we can trust it. Anything battery or electric, it's kind of like, oh, I'm not so sure now. And word of mouth is so huge. And if none of your friends have tried it and it's a brand new thing, you
Mm.
do tiptoe around this kind of stuff. And it would
It
be
is.
interesting. It is interesting for people to hear. Okay, interesting. You've gone down a different path.
Because that, as you say, it is those trusted brands and the trust is built. It's not to say a brand you don't know is not going to be good. It's not going to be reliable, and it's actually not to say a trusted brand won't necessarily it's going to be perfect and never break down. That is about, yes, you do make sure it is reliable, and you might pay a bit more because it's built and designed to not break down. But I think the key part of that is the backup, having the resources. You know, someone's there.
Yes.
If there is an issue, you know you got that backup. We'd love to say we get zero warranty claims. No one can say that. You have issues. The key point is, if there's an issue, you know that it's a big company. You know they're invested in making sure that that bit of kit does what it says on the box, and it's got that backup and resources to make sure it's made right.
Well, let's go through the stats that are on this calculator or this webpage you've got here. I'll read this out to those who are listening. Get amped, go electric. And you've got a few different stats here. You got your runtime, which is 9 hours. Obviously, you've got a little asterisk next to that because obviously it depends on the condition and everything, weather, blah, blah, blah. 3 times snow reductions, 0 emissions. And then you've got a whole cost calculator in here. I guess what you're really trying to do is you've got electric mower price. Underneath that petrol mower price, you can put in your petrol price per litre and your electricity price per kilowatt, and then your machine use and blah, blah. And you can work out, I'm going to drag these around to random points on the screen. You can work out then at the bottom what your battery savings will be per year. So that's a very intelligent way of doing things, because we try and work this stuff out ourselves, and to have somebody else calculate it for us is, well, at least have the spreadsheet. It is essentially a fancy spreadsheet available. That's very helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And this calculator is actually, there's a link on the website, the Toro Australia website, under the Revolution product. It's actually, we probably should make it a little bit more obvious, but it is in there in the text.
There, yeah.
But the idea of this is these aren't cheap machines. They're 2 to 3 times the price of a similar petrol unit. But the key thing is to, you get that bit of a sticker shock. Oh no, I can't afford that. However, part of that is, well, there's a big saving in running and maintenance costs. You need to account for that. So these, you're not going to buy it and sell it within a week. You're going to buy it and keep it for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, or however long you want to do. So you've got to make sure you look at the total cost over that time. What's the purchase cost over that time? What's the maintenance cost? What's the running cost? And the big bits of running cost comparison is the petrol price. And there we've got a $2, and that's sort of where it is at the moment.
Unfortunately. I love, just for a little note for people who are listening, the petrol price range that they've given you is $1.25, which is incredibly optimistic. I mean, if that ever happens again, we'll be very happy. And then it goes up to $8, which I think is like apocalyptic levels of cost of petrol. It's kind of funny. I guess you had to put some range in, but it's kind of like, it's like a doomsday prediction. It's like, if in the next 5 years this happens, at least you can still calculate it, but I certainly hope it doesn't.
This was built in the US, and we actually had to go back to our web guy in the US. Okay, we need to change this up. The price ranges were just, I think the US was like 20 cents a gallon or something.
Yeah, they were like, I remember there was a big uproar a year or so ago about how they were doing, like, I can't remember what it was, but it cracked, I think it was $7 a gallon for the first time. And that's still like $1.30 or something. It's like, it's still like so. I made those numbers up, people, but you get the concept. It was something like that. It was like it was newsworthy, over there that something had cracked a certain threshold and it was still way cheaper than what we pay here. But anyway, that's a handy little tool. I don't want to spend too much time on that because we could run through so many scenarios that, we could spend 2 hours just on it. But
Yeah,
yes, for people who, you go, Brian.
yeah, and generally when you work it out, what these machines cost compared, if you're doing, and it actually depends on how many hours you're doing. If you're doing a couple hundred hours a year, these are probably not going to make sense as far as the cost go. But if you're doing that 500 to 700 hours a year, the payback's less than 5 years in a lot of cases. So you go, okay, I'm owning it for 5 years. Yes, it's a big chunk of money up front, but you're not paying that hundreds of dollars a month on fuel, on belts, on hydraulic changes, on services. So.
Well, there's some other things we're going to chuck on the screen. Not the handheld blower just yet, but the what's this called? The 48-inch Z-Master MyRite Revolution, and this is coming soon. Now, this is battery technology, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is the unit that calculator you can use for. So these are our new battery Z-Masters.
And it looks like the standard Toro. No, I shouldn't say standard because there's so many different varieties. But the Toro mower you know and love, and it's just everything's. I can see there's a motor there, and there's no combustion engine at the back. Is that's the idea, right? You wanted to keep the same cut, the same deck, everything that people already love you for. Just make it electrified.
Yeah. So this is our Z-Master 4000. So on that same page, you get a Z-Master 4000. It'll look very similar because basically it's the same machine, but this one's got batteries and electric motors. The batteries, it's actually a big chunk of batteries. They start from under the seat and go towards the back. Positioned just nicely in between those wheels so you get good balance on it. So it's essentially the same machine. All the things that people buy these for are in this, but it's got it's nice and quiet, no exhaust emissions, and it ticks all those boxes. So, yeah.
Well, one thing I want to add, and this is only a small portion of people, we talk about in the previous page, the return on investment. People also need to consider, and this is for anything electric, can you increase your hourly rate because you're offering a quieter service, right? Or can you extend your working hours because you're offering a quieter service? We talked off air about, let's say you had a mowing contract that was up against a lot of houses, say a retirement village or maybe a school, and I do a private school, and the oval backs onto houses, and I feel awkward if I start smack on 7 o'clock in the morning, right? But if we were to try and get certain areas done before the kids come in, you kind of have to start. And when I first did that contract, we've been doing that for a while now, but when I first did, I got really nervous. Like, is someone going to complain? Am I going to upset people here because I've just started this new contract? And if you do get people complaining, you could go to the facility manager at a place like that and say, hey, we can go electric. We'll charge you 15% more per cut, right? But if it's costing you do the maths, if you're, let's say hypothetical numbers, you're making $20 more per hour and it's costing you $10 more per hour to have the machine, you're in the green. You're making more money. And a lot of people, they will get what you call sticker shock, right? And for some people, it's like you said, it's not the right machine because they're only doing small amounts of hours. They're not going to recoup it. But it's also, there's different ways that people may be interested in these machines. Like they might just go for the standard Z-Master 4000, but some people might go, no, there's a value for me in this that is not shown on the spreadsheet, Yeah.
And it's all about that differentiation, like in any business, any product, which lawn mowing is, it's a product. You want to differentiate and you want to say, okay, what are the hot topics at the moment? And a lot of, say if you're talking private schools, they're probably, they're people who send their kids there paying a probably good chunk of money. The school wants to market to those. So whether it's, even if it's practical, like not having noise while kids are in class, to marketing their eco credentials to the potential parents. So a lot of those schools would have environmental policies and targets and those sort of things you can't really monetize. They've got to tick that box to make sure they can say that. So a couple of more dollars an hour is it to or another 10% on the mowing contract. So well, actually that's a good investment because we've got these goals. We actually have to achieve these because this is how we're marketing it. So. And that's where we see a lot of the interest for these is starting with the large contractors and who are going to the councils, and those councils who do have those mandated
Yes, exactly.
eco
Those
guidelines
Yep.
for all the right reasons. You go, okay, with environmental, it's key on their priority for their ratepayers to make sure they're going eco. And say, well, they're mandating that to get their contracts, you have to have X amount of battery powered or eco-friendly or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where the big demand is starting. But it filters down, the small, let's just say smaller schools, whether it be a private school or whether it be a small business who gets their front lawns cut. A lot of those will have put in place those their goals and targets and market on that.
I want to ask you. I don't like talking down about other brands. This is not what this series is about. But this is a certain event happened last year that we can't hide from. At the GIE, DeWalt released a battery mower that I think it was a prototype or it was a very early release. They rushed it to market and it set on fire. It was a Quit Expo. Everybody knows about that, so I can't. Yeah. I don't want to talk down about DeWalt because this is about each brand talking about themselves, and it's just such a well-known thing. We can't hide from the brand name on this scenario, but a lot of people saw that, and I feel that made people. Obviously, it was nervous and mistrusting of DeWalt after that, but also nervous and mistrusting of anything battery. I've seen this on group chats. You see a picture of a Tesla that's on fire, right? And I don't know what caused the fire. I don't know what happened to it, but they'll go, "Oh, do I really want to sit on a ride-on lawnmower when the batteries can do this?" So, tell me, you got thoughts. I can see it, but what's going through your mind with all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, when we did, that went around pretty quickly, and all the competitors would have looked at it, and the first reaction is, "Oh, look at what happened there." Then it sinks in and gone. You feel for them. You go, as you say, it would have been a prototype. Wouldn't have been, they got it there. Something went wrong, and
it's real human beings behind.
Could have been there for the grace of God. It can happen. They're a big brand.
Yeah,
it would have been a lesson for them, but it is. I suppose that is the issue. It does put a cloud on this, and you see a Tesla on fire, and they're a big brand. They've obviously got their checks.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, they don't show how many Fords burst into flames because they've got petrol engines.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is difficult when you see that, and that's while back to what we did with the batteries, there's huge amounts of testing and compliance, outside labs testing ours for exactly those reasons, because the likelihood of that happening pretty low, but it's what the outcome, if it does happen, it's pretty devastating with the big batteries like that. It can cause issues. So the testing is really key to that.
Well, I would like to be fair on the other side as well, because I have also seen pictures of the brand doesn't matter, but a mower in Australia on a group that I'm a part of that set on fire because someone was refilling it with fuel as it was hot, and the fuels touched a part of the mower, and the whole thing's gone up in flames. So in one, I'm not really pro or against battery. I'm not. I know there's some people out there who I've met who greenified their entire business model 5 years ago, or something like that. And I'm sort of the person who's like, if it's the best tool for my job, I'll buy it.
Yep.
And so I've got both. I've got battery stuff. I've got petrol stuff. I've got petrol stuff that one day when it dies, I'll replace the battery. There's things like that. But you do have to. You are right that there was this hype train, a negative hype train, that people jumped on. And especially interviewing people like yourself who work at these businesses, you see the name like Toro and you think big, massive corporation. You talk to Brian, you go, oh, he's a real human being. Whether that brand is whoever it is, but you think about DeWalt and go, oh, big, massive international company. But there was a human being whose name might have also been Brian, but it was a Sally or a Tim or Sharon or whoever it was developing this and part of the marketing, and they worked so hard to get this out. And maybe it was a little bit too soon. Maybe the Equip Expo came too early for them, and you do feel sorry for those people who worked hard. But it's also a legitimate concern and is something that needs to be talked about because people don't want to spend however much money. How much do these cost, by the way? I think you told me before, but I just got to remember.
Around 70.
So if you got to spend 70 grand on something, again, you can do the calculator to work it out. You just want to make sure it's not going to burst out in flames, right?
Absolutely. And actually, we, with our training and our dealers and our internal staff, we've got a training program.
Yep.
We put them through it. Primarily, that's around the technical aspects of how to service it and how to pre-deliver it and what not to do. But part of that also is around battery safety. The Queensland TAFE actually do a little micro credential, they call it, around. It's geared towards techs for battery equipment, so little scooters and this sort of power equipment. That's a great little course to do if people want to understand the risks and how to handle these batteries. It's probably not relevant to most people, end users who use them, but one of the key points around that was if there is a fire with a lithium battery, don't put water on it. Don't use your standard extinguisher. There is a specific extinguisher to use with them. So it's interesting to actually see that, see the protocols around those fires with them.
Yeah. The next question I've got regarding heat and batteries and these equipment is when you have. So if I'm zooming in on this picture, you've been around for many years with this kind of stuff. I've had many times I'm mowing on my ride on or whatever on the stand-on mower. You hop off for 10 minutes to go get a drink or have a chat with somebody or maybe go do some whipping, and then you jump back on, you sit on the seat, and it is roasting your backside because it's a hot day, it's exposed in the sun. Obviously, the color of the seat is often black. So, that's not the great idea, Same with the stand-on. You jump back on, and the front of your legs, your quads that touch it, it's roasting because it's been out in the sun. You just almost can't touch it. We're in the middle of a heat wave here in Perth, and I had a walk behind mower. I took off the trailer and it was hot. It wasn't so hot that I couldn't touch the handles, but it was uncomfortable for a minute before it cooled down. I'm looking at this. We know that battery technology is reduced in its capacity the hotter it gets. And you've got a piece of equipment that's going to be working out in the hot Australian sun. How much a reduction, or I'm sure the technicians, because America is hot too. Arizona, places like that, Nevada, they would have to cover those sorts of wide temperature ranges. What are they doing to keep them cool?
I've got my cheat sheet here. And part of that design on the batteries is getting that temperature range where they suggest the temperature. And for general use, the operating range, I don't know all the specs, is minus 20 to 55 degrees C. So these are rated to operate.
Is this ambient temperature or is this the temperature of the batteries?
Would be the temperature of the batteries.
Okay.
So if you're sitting out, so they are tucked in under the seat, so you're not going to get sun directly on them. 55 degrees if the sun's directly on it, I suppose it'll reach that. Yeah. But essentially, where they are, if the ambient temperature's out there in the low 40s, you're probably not going to reach that 55 degrees. But that's the operating range. As you say, when it's too cold or too hot, both the performance on them and the longevity of them will decline, not significantly, but if it's extreme in its either its range or its time, if you're operating it with the ambient temperature around 50 degrees all the time, those batteries are not going to last compared to if it's operating all the time around that sort of 30 degrees.
When back in the day, I lost my license about 10 years ago, and I was a gardener at a school, and I had to cycle to and from the school. This is going to be relevant in a second, Brian, trust me.
Okay.
And I love cycling, and actually didn't mind. I cycled for 3 more months because even though I could have got my license, I just enjoyed it. And then when winter came, I got my license again. This is back in the day, maybe more than 10 years ago now.
Yeah,
but
yeah, a long time ago, back in the day.
Yeah, 10 years, yeah, exactly. Back when for you back in the days, the paleo era, wasn't it? But anyways, my bike had a computer on it, and I remember it was a close to 40-degree day, right? So maybe it was 39, 38. It might have crossed 40 degrees. I can't remember. But what I do certainly remember, and I have a photo of it that I put up online many years ago, is as I was cycling home on the road, right, on a very hot day, my bike computer was reading 53 degrees ambient temperature of that radiating off the road.
Mm.
And so it is something that we've got to be careful of. And I'm not saying this because to talk about Toro, because I believe just about every battery manufacturer has that range as well. It's kind of a lithium thing, isn't it? It's not a Toro thing or whatever other brand, right?
Yeah, and that's saying the cells in there, quite possibly buying it from the same places, other manufacturers. And I suppose the counterpoint to that is those sort of temperatures also relevant to your petrol and diesel engines. If you're operating a petrol engine in those sort of temperatures, you're quite probably going to have issues as well. And back onto that fire safety, probably one of the, I think, mowers going up in flames is not an uncommon thing, and that tends to be around dry grass on exhausts, and not cleaning out. So there's probably a whole. Whilst I think we can't ignore risks of batteries, and you've got to mitigate against that, but it's probably a whole lot less than just not maintaining your petrol engine, letting it clog up with dry grass and mowing on a hot day. Plus, it's probably a lot more comfortable on a battery mower on that hot day than having a petrol engine right behind you.
Well, this is another thing that comes to mind is, now I don't know what the laws are everywhere, and I don't know the WA law exactly, but when we have a total fire ban, there are some mowing tools we are allowed to use, and it's typically if they're battery powered. And so one of the things that we've considered at my business, because we've been incredibly dry and hot the last couple of years. Last summer we had 1.6 mil of rain for the entire summer. We've had, this week is the hottest week I think they've ever, or this hasn't finished yet, but they're predicting it's the hottest week we've ever going to have in November. Every day this week is above 35. And it's, luckily, we haven't had a fire ban in my area yet, but if we have a total fire ban, we're not legally allowed to work in certain scenarios. There are things that we can and can't do. It's a little bit technical. It's kind of one of the things that isn't policed, and you kind of don't really know what is appropriate or not, because it's kind of like, say, take a metal-bladed edger, right, against concrete. Doesn't matter if it's petrol or battery. It's the metal chipping the concrete that can cause the spark. Yet that kind of is legal, so you might on those days just want to whippy your edges, use a nylon on the whip snipper. But anyways, that's a whole different thing. But I have thought about this, because you are not allowed to drive a car across a paddock. That is one of the very strong rules they have, because especially in farming area, you're not allowed to drive anything petrol powered across a paddock. And because if that goes up in flames, residential stuff, they don't care. They're not as strict on, because a front lawn that's 50 to 200 square meters going up in flames is not a direct risk to the livelihood of, thousands and thousands of farmers everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? You get the idea. So these battery powered models, I wonder, and it's worth looking into, if somebody keeps struggling with fire bans, preventing them from doing block slashing or working out, because we are considering that's one of the things that's making us want to electrify quicker
Hmm.
is actually the amount of money we lose, especially when I had a big crew. There was times where we had more than 10 employees, and the cost to pay people's, like, it's awkward, like, because I don't know, if you got someone's full-time, you got to pay them. If they're casual, you kind of feel bad if you have to cancel in the morning from a government protocol. It's not their fault, it's not your fault, then you got to
Yeah.
reschedule everything. It's a nightmare. And the cost on that, like 2 days of missing work for handheld equipment, buys me a whole lot of handheld equipment. Luckily, so this is the stuff that goes through my head as well, and it's an interesting proposition because yes, if you looked at say $70,000 compared to what does a ZMaster 400 petrol cost?
20 in the 20s,
So it's yeah,
twenty,
let's say it's
depending on.
three times. If it's 23,000, that's roughly 3 times the cost, right? You got 3 times the cost, but over a 5 year period, if you're in an area and you're doing large dry mowing and you have to keep rescheduling, right? Oh my goodness, like you will not just on the battery runtime and stuff, but to be able to keep working would be night and day different for a lot of businesses.
I hadn't actually thought of the fire ban line, but yeah, that's a really good point because, as I said, that's probably one of the key reasons why mowers burst into flames is dry grass on hot days.
Yeah.
And the fire bans, if not allowed to use it, yeah, that absolutely makes sense.
It's those little 1%ers that are very expensive. Like, I've talked with other brands as well. Like when you have an owner operator, problems, you know this from your time servicing equipment, right? How many problems? No, let's rephrase this. How many dumb problems are from owner operators, and how many dumb problems are from employees? A lot of the dumb because the owner operator has bought the equipment, and a lot of the time it's their investment, it's their tool, they treat it better. The employee doesn't care so much. And so even things like mixing two-stroke fuel, I had a time where I've told this multiple times, but it's new to you. We had one employee who made an honest mistake in that he was filling two green two-stroke fuels. You know where this is going straight away, don't you? He put double the oil in one. Like he put oil in, measured it up again, and put it in again in one, forgetting which one he had put it in. And then so we had fuel that was double and no oil in the other one. And that ended up, no one caught that until all of a sudden all of our tools, not all of them, but a bunch of them were having problems. And
Mm-hmm.
I poured the fuel out, and I have this photo where I have perfectly mixed oil, perfect mixed fuel, sorry, the double mix and the single mix, and they were taken out of engines. I pour them out of fuel tanks. Things like that, people just look at the cost and go, this is extreme
Mm-hmm.
cost. But the real world it's problems happen, and battery will prevent some of those issues. So again, it's not for everybody, but there's some people out there that go, yes, give me that right now.
Yeah, but look, maintenance is massive in this sort of equipment. I just remember back in the day selling to councils, going to a council, and you see one bit of kit where they've got one operator on it. He's a good operator, looks after it. I remember seeing this machine. I think it was one of the Outfronts Groundsmaster 3280 or something like that. Oh, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah, I can't remember them buying that. And go, oh, he said, well, no, that's 5 years old and done 3,000-4,000 hours. And it looked brand
Oh,
new. And then you look at another one that's 6 months old, done a couple 300 hours, and it's
yeah.
trash because they got no. It's not one operator. It's whoever jumps on it, and they
Yep.
don't give a crap. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
get serviced. It doesn't get looked after. It doesn't get cleaned. It just makes a massive difference how they're maintained. I mean, you always get a lot of blowback when the tech guys reject a warranty, but you see some of the stuff that people try to put on through warranties.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I can imagine.
Really? I mean, we try to be fair, and sometimes it's easier just to say yes than to deal with the negative comments. But you don't want to necessarily reward bad behaviour. But there's
No, 100%. Yeah.
I don't know how some people actually use these bits of kit the way they are and how they've been maintained or lack of. but it makes a massive difference. So this sort of things, if you can eliminate the need to do those that sort of servicing, which you won't say battery units are immune from servicing. You still need to look after. You still need to service.
Blades and things like
It
that.
is
Yeah,
that
like
replacing oils and having to grease things, and I'm old enough to know about greasable ball joints on steering systems, and they always used to wear out and always used to be replaced. When they went to non-greasable ones, yes, they were designed not to be greased and last a long time, but the key thing why the other ones used to wear out is no one used to grease them. So when you can eliminate something, having to maintain it, generally it's particularly if you've got a crew of guys using it,
yep.
or girls, people,
Yeah.
it means that it's most likely going to last longer just because you don't have to do those things like change the oils, keep the air filter clean, clean the dry grass off the exhaust.
All that jazz. I want to talk about this. We'll talk about this briefly because we've sort of covered the ride-on stuff, but you also have the next Groundsmaster Evolution, and it's the out front mower. A lot of information on here. This is very common with sort of your council work. The deck at the front, this style of mower floats better over hills and things like that. There's a lot of interest in these kinds of bits of gear. What's the price point on these? I'm sure these are a step up. They typically are.
I actually can't remember. We haven't. These will be coming out next year. I haven't got the final prices on those.
Let's just make something up. Like $15, $25.
Yeah, look, they've got to be 10 grand with actually.
That's a joke, people. Some people don't know.
You might have to add a zero onto that.
Yeah, exactly.
And
zero at the front, right. Zero, $10,000. That's why we put the zero.
Yeah, someone's going to put an order in. So Brian says they're 10 grand.
I heard this on a podcast.
They're expensive kit, but it's based on our existing 3000 series out fronts. It's that generic council mower. These will have 11 of those batteries in them. So there's the Z-Master has 10 of them. So obviously it's a slightly bigger machine. It's got more batteries. It's going to be more than that.
Yeah, of course.
But you can configure these up to 17 of those batteries. So once these will come out with a 60-inch deck and the two-wheel drive, the first one, and then the four-wheel drive and the 72 deck will come out later next year. So once you've got a 72 deck, four-wheel drive, it'll need more batteries, so you can put up to 17 batteries in them. So I think fully configured, they're actually going to be pretty spendy. But for all the reasons we've talked about and all the cost savings on that, and the areas that these will be going into, sometimes that cost is irrelevant. It's about the application and the environmental concerns, etc. So they'll be interesting. There's certainly interest in them from starting with the larger councils and government and large contractors for all the reasons we've talked about on the zero turns.
Well, I also do think that 72 four-wheel drive, 72-inch four-wheel drive is that type of mower that you would want for the big vacant block slashing, typically speaking, because four-wheel drive on those dry, at least in WA at least, very sandy, so easy to get a zero-turn bogged because, it's at some points it's a one-wheel drive, not even a two-wheel drive. So it's definitely four-wheel drive. They're just, look, people, there's an option there. And if you're interested, go contact Toro and get some more information, and you can use that spreadsheet to work out whether or not it's financially viable for you. Let's talk about the handheld gear. Now, this is all still coming soon, guys. Most of the things we're going to talk about are things you can't even get yet. So it's kind of like a bit of a tease, isn't it?
It is a bit of a tease. These have been a tease. We've actually been waiting longer than we would have liked. Mm-hmm. Like everything at the moment, supply is hard to get. There's a couple of key things but we should be coming out to our dealers to say to say that they're on the way. So hopefully towards the end of the year, we should have these available to purchase in the dealerships.
Now, I believe these are what's behind you as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
In
we've got
this,
a couple of actually our original samples there of them.
so they're
So
like
we've
test kits. They're not the real thing you're going to buy, but you know,
I'm pretty close to it, but it just happens to be a couple we've had for a while. Had to play with them, had on display, etc. Done some demos, so they're a little used, and
yep.
it's just the ones we got rather than get the ones out of stock. So
Do you
try to dress it up a bit before I came on.
make it look good? Yes. Well, Brian, with your head on here, we didn't need any more dressing up.
Sure. Okay.
He's like, well,
People are not going to trust anything you say after that.
No, that's true. No, they know I have a good sense of humor. Actually, no, saying I have a sense of humor made it sound like it was an insult. Anyways, so, like I said, I'm digging myself a bigger hole, aren't I? I need to get one of your dingoes to get it out. Okay, but you've got this whole range here, so I'm going to click through them. They're not available yet. So the most difficult thing is that because they're not available yet, we can't really talk about them too much in a practical sense because people can't go and get them in their hand, but they may be very interested in the stats side of it. So there's a leaf blower, you've got a string trimmer, which is somebody needs to start calling something a whippersnipper just for the Australian
Yeah,
market.
see that's a brand name. So
Is it? What?
It is. I think it's Whipsnipper is the original
So that's why it
brand
happened.
name.
It was the first one that came out. All right. Or Bipper Dipper for some of the people who listen to this. That's a whole story from a different podcast. But yeah, hedge trimmers, there's a whole lot of things. And so what is about this because you could just let it be and you can just go, oh no, we're not going to make anything. But you also need to make something that's special, that stands out. How does it stack up?
We've got our Flex Force range, which is basically in our consumer range. We've had out for a couple of years. It's it's a growing market. It's something in the US we've had ranges of handheld product. We really haven't done much with them here. They came out with they've had a 40 volt there. They've got some of the petrol stuff. They've got some corded, but we haven't really stocked it here. When they came out with the 60 volt range, it was something we knew we were going to expand on.
Yep.
So we've had that Flex Force 60 volt range for a couple of years. It's something where we are planning to expand. This is that, as we were saying before, one of our big strengths is in that commercial professional market. So we've got to have a range in that, so that it is an add-on to that. I suppose the flexibility is we use that same battery system. So the batteries from your Flex Force blower will fit all of this gear. We've got specific larger batteries for this. Obviously, a consumer with their line trimmer, the 2.5 amp batteries, nice and light. We've got up to 10 amp batteries for this. You wouldn't necessarily wouldn't put that on a string trimmer. But the idea of this revolves around that backpack. So it's got capacity for 2 batteries. Generally, you'd probably put the 10 amp hour ones in, but it could be a 7.5, 6, 4, or 2.5. So you got the backpack. The blower actually slots onto it. It needs a backpack. It slots in. You got a little slot to.
Yep.
I actually have one here.
He's got the backpack behind him, so he's just grabbing that now. For those listening.
So those who are watching, there's that little slot on the back, if you can see. So the blower will slot into that. So it'll take a lot of the weight of that blower. You've got the handle it's quite comfortable to use. So you've got basically 20 amp hours, or I think they're 540 watt hour each battery. So you've got 1,080 watt hours, which is probably the key stat. So that's the voltage times the amp hours. So you've got a decent amount of watt hours there in that backpack. That'll run the blower. I I think it's like 37 minutes on absolute max with power boost and everything, which actually pushes you. Yeah, it probably pushed me around in the seat up to sort of probably a couple hours if you're just doing light
Right,
blowing.
that's a long run time. I mean, 20 amp hours in your back is going to be a lot more than what most people are, or most other competitors are
Yeah,
necessarily offering. I think kind of that sort of 16, 18 range,
yeah. There's
17, 15 is
mm,
kind of, so having that extra runtime, because I can see as well, definitely for that, you guys do, at least here in Perth, I don't know what's like at the rest of the country, but Toro are kind of the mower brand for council work over here.
mm,
Almost all councils are cutting with some sort of Toro machine. It's maybe 70%, 80% of the market over here. And I can definitely see that you need that runtime on those jobs. And you don't necessarily need to be using full berries. I have said before in other podcasts, just for context, that when you're doing small jobs, you don't need like 25 minutes of runtime, for example, actually gets me on max berries, gets me through most days for me, because I'm not blasting the heck out of my small lawns. I'm just not needing and tidying them up because they're well
yeah.
maintained. So it's horses for courses. And I still believe personally that some people, like the petrol stuff, if they're extremely long periods of time. I used to work at a school that I would blow down with a petrol backpack for an hour and a half every morning, because the number of leaves that just went around that school, like they had 70 or so trees in this school. Like it was, so there's certain applications, but I can totally see that. Yeah, if you can get 2 hours of light maintenance, or what would probably be fluctuating between light maintenance and full berries, so maybe an hour of runtime of blowing is actually a lot. That's a long
Yeah.
time of actually being on a machine.
For blowers are really hungry on the power.
They are, yeah. What's the weight on this thing compared to? I don't want to mention brands, but like any sort of comparable backpack blower. Is it heavier? Is it lighter? Is it about the same?
I haven't got numbers right with me on the backpack.
Let's have a look if it's on this
relatively-
website that I've got in front of me.
It's a couple of kilos. I actually can't remember. Oh, actually, I should have the. I've got the cheat sheet, the backpack itself.
Well,
would
the specifications, while you're finding that, it's 257 kilometers per hour, 730 CFM, and 2-year commercial use warranty. So
I actually haven't got the weight of just the backpack, but the batteries are relatively heavy, but it's a relatively comfortable backpack to put on, and it takes weight off your arm for the blower as
It
well.
does, yeah. I guess it probably doesn't matter if it's within. No one's going to notice a kilo. My guess would be, and I
Yeah,
would.
and it's yeah.
A commercial.
But you can
Yeah,
put,
you go.
if you're really keen about the weight, you can put the smaller batteries in there as well.
It's just a curious thing. It's not going to make a break for most people. Now, what is quite interesting as well, I know that this is your golf course stuff. You've got a hover mower, right? Like
Yes.
that's pretty interesting. I don't know. I've never seen another battery hover mower. Like, I mean,
Well,
are these out in
really
Australia?
Not quite yet. Essentially, we'll be sending out the dealers in the next week or so. So yes,
Oh
these
wow,
are available.
very close. Because
So
this is a Great Britain
the-
website I'm on for those who are listening, not the Australian one now.
Don't tell our dealers yet, but we did preview this with a dealer event earlier in the year, so yeah, they're coming. So literally, that's one other thing. I'm setting it up internally to get some of these ordered in. So they're now available in our stores overseas, our stock overseas. So we'll get some of these in. So it's really that first battery hover. It's a bit of a niche market. It is generally golf
totally niche
for around bunkers and things.
Mhm.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So,
Really steep hills, things like that. That's what people use them for. And obviously with golf, they want around the green, they want those hills to create an interesting environment. I mean, everywhere, but typically they're mowing everything else with. I just think it's fascinating. I've never seen one before. I don't think many people listening to this are going to be interested, but for the one or two that are, they're going to be very happy that you've made one. So now, This is what people are going to be very interested in, though, which is the 53 centimeter, which is, if I'm remembering correct, that's not 21 inches.
21 inch.
It's 21 inches. It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Professional cordless mower with flex force system, right? A lot of people, I reckon these next two, so for people who are listening, we also have the 30-inch 60-volt, and that is the US
I think
website,
that's
so I
the
should
US
get the
price. So, yeah.
US price. So, yes, get your exchange rates working on that, people. But let's talk. You've got
plus
21.
freight, plus GST, plus, yeah.
So we're looking at $70,000 again, I think. No, we're not. But so the 21-inch, you've got the 21-inch and the 30-inch. People in Australia love your 30 inches. The options that you have, which I think is the Time Master and the Turf Master, if I'm correct.
Yeah, we've got the Time Master, which is basically in our consumer range. It doesn't carry a full commercial warranty, but realistically, there's a lot of contractors who use them.
I know there's heaps of people who use them.
The Turf Master is the commercial version of that, so it carries that. I think it's two or 3 years commercial warranty. But yeah, there's quite a few of them out there.
I think a lot of people. Let's go on to the 30 for now because we're talking about it.
Yep.
The US website doesn't look as easy to use as the Australian one. Anyways, so here's my photo here. Well, firstly, it looks cool. That's part of it. I've got to be honest. That's the big part. Now, underneath this, I'm assuming this is one power source belts similar to the system you have already. Is it?
Essentially, yes.
Is it pretty much an electrified? What are you calling this?
But basically that Time Master that we've got at the moment with the belt drive to the decks, essentially that with that power head on it.
How does the power head compare to the petrol? That's the number one thing people are going to ask. Has it got?
Yeah, these power heads
similar?
Similar sorts of power to those petrols, and I think you just need to listen to all the advertising for all the brands.
Mm-hmm.
Understand, there's certainly a decent amount of power in the power heads. The unique thing about this one, it's got capacity for 3 batteries.
Okay, and can they fit the 10 amp hours in there?
Yes.
So you could have 30 amp hours in your mower. That would last, because blowers suck it out, right? So a mower, whilst they also use it quite heavily, especially compared to like a hedge trimmer or something, but how long runtime are you getting out of 30 amp hours if you're chucking that in there?
It
always depends, doesn't it?
Somewhere, the run times are really dependent on the application, so it's very difficult. You always hesitate, and that's probably why you always hear hesitation from anyone who quotes a runtime.
You don't want to overpromise something and then make somebody upset.
You don't want to underpromise. Yeah, you can get really good runtimes, but if you're loading it to the max all the time, they do drag it pretty quickly.
Well, what's the kilowatts on the motor? I'm trying to find this on here. I can't find it.
It's one we haven't quite. I've got a.
It's not in Australia yet, so it's not. It's. I guess when people are interested, they can.
Be sort of early mid next year by the time we get our version. But it's.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of. I can't recall what was suggested on the run times, but generally, these are probably guesstimated an hour or two run time with as much battery as you can.
But it's still got the personal pace thing, which I know a lot of people like, right? And I'm assuming that being battery, it's got the torque and things like that. And I think that 30 amp hours is just a long time. It's a big battery, so I would assume it's a long run time compared to maybe several other options out there on the market. I can't even remember everything that's out there and what their run times are, to be honest, anyway. But that's an interesting thing. And I do know that a lot of people who listen to this, my understanding was that the Toro 30-inch was maybe the first or one of the only ones in the market for quite a while. And so when people wanted a 30-inch walk behind, other businesses have caught up now and they've got some. So a lot of people, they bought them, they've used them. Like we talked about before, there's that word of mouth. And so people trust them. And to go, oh, look, there's a battery version which is very similar in every other capacity. Yeah, there's interest there for sure.
And you said they actually look pretty cool even in real life. They're a
They
nice
do.
looking mower.
I mean,
Not the,
we should basically, as professionals, be like, we could have the ugliest bit of kit, and be happy with it. But you know what? There's just something about having something that looks good. And now, look, what about this 21-inch? How many batteries are we able to fit on this one?
that's the single battery in that one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just got the one battery. So it's the sort of thing you'd expect if you kit it up, you'd have a few batteries.
Mm-hmm.
And I should have looked up the runtime on these, the expected runtime, but it'd be. No, I'm not even going to say something because I'm going to get it wrong.
You get it wrong, and then you overpromise something.
Yep.
But it's there for people. Now, this is in Australia now, or this is not in Australia now?
That again is available. We haven't fully released this because we didn't actually have the large batteries yet. So we're getting those large batteries tested to make this work, either a 7.5 or a 10 amp. Once we've got those, it makes more sense. And with that, the rest of that professional gear, you'll see these more available. So you've got that whole kit. So you can, and back on the backpack, you can also use the backpack for the all the rest of the tools, not the mowers. But it's got a little line. You can put the string trimmer. You can connect that to the backpack. You can use the trimmers and hedge trimmers with the battery on them, but you putting connecting it to the backpack just extends the runtime.
So
to weigh up the tools.
I think it's really smart doing it both ways, because there's some brands that, you know, when you're forced to use a backpack, you alienate a certain part of the market that really doesn't want. And that part of the market are the people who are getting in and out of a car a lot. You know, so small residential contractors, which is a lot of what we do in my business. And just putting a backpack on and off every single time you get off the ute, get in and out of the ute, is just not practical. But also, you're right, that if you then change over to, say, you go to a commercial facility, you spend half your day doing small residential stuff, and then down the street you've got a small retirement village or something you're doing. In the second half of the day, you want your backpack, and having one or the other has kind of forced people to pick, and having both is a great option. But just to be clear, whilst the backpack won't plug into the mower, the batteries in the backpack and the batteries in the mower are exactly the same
batteries. And whilst the Revolution blower requires the backpack, it physically connects to it. You can't use it with just the battery.
Mm-hmm.
The Flex Force blower takes the same battery, and that you can either plug that on the backpack or use it with the battery. So you can mix and match. We don't yet have a chainsaw in the Revolution range. If it's the sort of thing, okay, I'm in this ecosystem, I need a chainsaw, but I use it once a month. Yes, it's the consumer, but they're a decent quality chainsaw. You can get the Flex Force chainsaw and use the same batteries. Similar to the blower. I want to use that blower. I want to use these. My big users are the string trimmer, so that's got to be the professional one. The hedge trimmer, I only use once a month. Maybe the Flex Force one's going to be fine.
I would like to. One more thing I will say is that with the chainsaw, before we quickly move on from this, I will just mention this. A lot of the listeners, I think the domestic market chainsaws actually do them fine, because a lot of them are not tree loppers. They might only cut a tree once every 2 months or something like that, or maybe even 2 or 3 times a year are they actually really cutting a tree, not just pruning a branch or two here. It's common for them to prune a branch or two here or there. Say you're doing a hedging job and you got to cut something thicker. Yeah, sure. So that is a genuine option. One quick question before we move on, I should say this as well. What is the range going to look like over the next couple of years? Is this something that Toro are really focusing on, and they're going to bring out a lot of things, or are you more going to cover the?
We need to expand the range, and that's on the cards. I can't necessarily divulge exactly what and when and where, but it's the range, both that Flex Force range and the Revolution range. We need to expand. We've got those core products that would cater to 70 or 80% of the market what people buy in
Yes.
hand
Yes.
tools. But it's those additional ones, pole saws, chainsaws. So
Yeah.
those are on the cards, and we'll be adding those to the range.
And for commercial users too, I'm assuming.
Yeah, both of those ranges.
Let's finish this podcast with a bunch of things that are just. I might add a few more things onto this list, Brian, that I didn't even warn you about. But for me, this is now just personal indulgence because I love finer turf care. I love getting amazing results in turf care. And a lot of the products out there, if you want to do larger area or even small area stuff, it's so hard to find products that kind of sort of cover those sort of intermediate ranges and be at a competitive price point and get you competitive. I think a stand-on aerator, which is what we're looking at here right now, for people, there's a 24-inch and there's a 30-inch stand-on aerator that Toro make. And I don't own one. I have used I believe it's a 30-inch on a couple of occasions. A friend of mine, Richard from Apple Rich, shout out to him. He has one. He loves it. People who have these love them. Now, they are a drum style, but the weight of the machine allows it to drive much further into the ground. A lot of people might have hired a Bluebird aerator from their local Kennard Tara or something like that, which, is better than nothing. But the depth you're going to get, because the machine weighs hundreds of kilos, and if you eat a lot of Zinger boxes like me, 540 kilos is what it weighs. You chuck
I think that, I don't think it weighs, but applies. So that would be the
with the
weight. But yeah, actually specs should show the weight. If you go into the specifications, they'd be
it'd be
couple hundred.
It is. I think probably 460
kilos.
Okay,
there you go. 460.
So you chuck there you go. You chuck 100-kilo user on there, or 60 to 120 depending on male, female, age, blah blah, Zinger box consumptions per week. It's a lot of force going into these, but the main thing that people get them for, as you well know, is their speed and efficiency over even small areas, but specifically medium to large. A lot of people, they can get themselves into bigger contracts by having this machine. And when you look at the price point compared to a tractor mounted aerator with a tractor, this is super cheap, although it's very expensive to buy. But if you're wanting to get into this, so these are the type of product that, yes, it's one of the things that I've really wanted to buy for a long time. And I got a quote. I've ummed and ahed with it for many years, and I just haven't. 90% of my work is small. 90% of my work is small stuff, and it's one of those. I'd buy it for my own satisfaction, but I just can't justify it financially, kind of thing, for me. But I know that there's some people out there who do a lot more stuff. Anyways, I'm waffling on a bit. What makes this special?
That's a story in tools. So you go, I really want to. I've got to find a justification.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, same with top dress spreaders, and the next thing
I think it drills and routers and whatever tool you want. Whether it's you always try and justify it. But these sort of things. And it is, can you expand the range of contracts you can get? Can you expand what you can offer the existing clients? So create another market. But these, everything you've spoken about, these are, easy for the operator, but quick and efficient for those smaller areas. Say not having to get a large aerator in. It's they're actually really popular in WA.
Yeah, because we like our lawns.
To be fair, well, I mean, they're fairly lawn proud in WA, but I think the conditions also suit them well. Being that style of aerator, if you're looking somewhere you got very hard clay soils, this style of aerator is going to struggle. WA, generally sandy, work really nicely. So that's something to be aware of with these. Depending on your conditions, WA they work really well. We sell probably most of them in there, but a wide variety of conditions they'll work in. and it's just nice and quick, efficient,
Mhm.
and maybe another string to someone's bow.
What's the price point? Now, you told me off air. It's about, for the 30
Yeah,
inch, you said it was about 20 grand, right?
just I think they were just over 20. Was it 23 for the 30 inch? Just a little bit less for the 24.
So if you're talking, for context, people, if you want to get something that can go as deep as this can, and I have side by side compared these and measured with, like, you're looking at a walk behind machine is $8,000 plus. And this, you're talking about a 18-inch walk behind machine compared to a 30-inch stand-on machine. So the price point, whilst again some people go $20,000, and again $20,000 is a lot of money, but a lot of people, if you have the work, obviously you're going to finance the machine, most likely finance the machine this price point, and that's if you have the aeration work already, the efficiency is much higher, which is why I've been very tempted.
Yeah,
Now,
and there's make that business case for it if you've got that work or you know where you can generate that add-on. So okay, I can do X amount, 1 or 2 jobs a week, or through this part of the year we're going to be doing renovations. It's a matter of justifying if you can get that work or generate another string to your bow. It's
yeah.
you can add that as part of your toolkit.
Do you know what I like about you, Brian, is you're not shoving things down our throats. And I'm not saying that anybody else has on this podcast, but you do find that some people are like, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and you must buy it right now. And you're like, if you can find it to work out in your numbers, you can go and get it.
Yeah. It's I think you've said a number of times. Not everything suits everyone. You got to work out where you are, what you do, your conditions, and get the right bit of kit for it. Something that suits. Not spend too much, but don't spend too little.
Now, this machine here I've got here, the Procore 648, I have used one of these. There's a place in Perth you can hire them from. They are not cheap to hire, and we used it once because we needed it for a certain style of application. This is a golf greens aerator that people would typically use in that scenario. So it's really, not many people are going to use it. But having said that, they are cool machines. And it's almost scary, isn't it? Like being next to it, seeing the force it's shoving those tines into the ground, you're like, oh, I really do not. You almost like, it makes you aware of how fragile your feet are in that moment,
Yeah, when these first came out, I don't know where it was 10, 15 years ago. I was in the golf sales, and at that time there wasn't. I think it was like the old grinds the golf course used to use, and and not a lot of them used them. And it's going, okay, I wonder how many would sell. Couple, but these become basically the leading golf greens aerator in the world. They just nice and easy, simple to operate. They work really well, really smooth. And this is really the top end of core, is where you golf green, you need a clean core that they complain about any tufting that comes up. You want to leave it pristine, whether that be a solid tine or actually taking a core. So these are the top end of that. Putting these on the average front lawn would be a bit of a waste, to be honest. You wouldn't. They do a really good job, but
the precision of the machine is for a playing surface, is what you're getting.
It is that playing surface.
So I'll explain. Sorry, Brian, if I can just explain to the listener. Sorry, guys, here we go. Good old listener. But you're talking about the tufting there. I just want to, not everybody knows about this. So when you have a drum style that goes around in circles, typically the first thing I talk about is it doesn't go as deep because you don't have a driving force straight into the ground. But the other thing is it kind of flicks the turf at the end of the motion. It kind of, pulls it up. So these machines, it's perfect. Well, not perfectly, but it's about as close to 90 degrees up and down as you can get. And as a result, the hole is incredibly clean. And what will happen at a golf course is they will just roll over it after with a roller, and then people can play on the golf green after. And what Brian's talking about there is it's a lot of money to run a machine like that for that purpose, for your 50 square meter front lawn that Aunt Margaret wants, a couple of holes punched in. So what were you going to say when we were talking over each other there?
Well, you talk about playing fields. Primarily, these are a golf green machine, but sports fields, Damien's got one for Adelaide Oval to do
Yes.
those high compaction areas around, so the goal mouths.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the AFL fields got these, the centre squares, the goal mouths, where you get high compaction areas. You can do it in just small spots.
Yep. If I wanted to be really silly, Brian, and I wanted to buy one for Aunt Margaret's front lawn, what is the price point? There's two here. So there's a 920, which is 122 centimeters.
So the they're both essentially the same machine. The 648S is the new model.
Oh, okay.
So the 648S, the 64, actually, we probably should take the 648 off. Has been superseded now.
So, before you say the price as well, we should say, how deep do these things go? Because it's much deeper than normal.
Yeah, these are not a deep tine aerator. It's around that 4.5 inches.
Okay, what's that in centimeters again? 4 inches, 10. But it's more than 10 centimeters. 4.5.
Yeah, that's
12, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, 2.5 centimeters to an inch. So 4 would be 10. Half an inch, 11, 12. So you're lucky to get 10 centimeters from the stand on. In the real world, you're getting sort of 8, 9 centimeters from what I've measured on the soil conditions that I've had. Same with those other walk behind machines that are probably more suitable to the residential market, as Brian has mentioned. So that's the thing. Now, what is the price on this new 648S?
648S, with the tines and the tine holders, it's a basic setup. You're looking just over 50 grand.
So you
not
really
too bad. You get one of those for Aunt Martha.
Exactly. I mean, she puts it next to a Mercedes. Probably costs the same price. But that's why they were expensive to hire, which is why I've used one, and I used it once, and maybe I will again. But that was just more for me. Now, one thing I should ask you is, you have in America a massive range of walk-behind aerators, or maybe not massive, but you have more that are available that are not coming over here. Is that just the market isn't big enough to support the cost to distribute them and all that kind of stuff?
When we're looking at what we do bring in, the US has obviously got a bigger range than us. It is about the market here. Is it if we're going to sell 5 of something, what are we doing? If we're going to sell 5,000, we're all over it. But a lot of it is about the compliances that are required to bring equipment into Australia. A lot of people assume, it's available in America, I'll just go on and buy it. But as a manufacturer, when we bring it in, there's some additional compliances for Australia that aren't relevant in the US. And one of the main ones is the electrical compliance, the RCM mark through ACMA. It's about basically the electrical emissions that needs to pass a certain test. So that those compliances need to be in place before we can actually physically bring it in and sell it. So if we don't have certain volumes, we can't justify the cost of doing those tests or bringing something up to those standards. And there may not even be a version that can do that. So there's a lot of gear in the US that we can't just say, we'll order a couple of those.
Well, you still have a lot of the specialist stuff that, like, you're not getting. Like I said, for many years, that standard aerator was not even available in another brand. It's only recently that anybody's come out with anything. Same with the 30-inch we talked about. You guys are often some of the first to bring over those more specialized bits of gear. Now, Brian, I'm going to ask you a question that's a little bit cheeky, and you got to pretend that your bosses are not listening to this, okay? All right. If you can answer this, is there a product that you really want over here, that you really want to bring over here, and the number crunchers have said no? and you're like, and it really, you think it would do well, but it's just you're not able to do it for whatever reason.
Oh, it's hard because most, I tend to get my way. Just going, okay, I like that's a cool machine. We'll get that over. But
Oh, they trust you that much, do they?
they're not listening, are they?
Probably not now.
Actually, it was interesting. The grandstands were one we actually the US have had the grandstand stand-ons for a
Yes.
lot of years, and they're really popular. Probably maybe 10 years ago, we bought some over. No one bought them.
Yep.
So, okay, we had to sell off the ones we had pretty cheap. Maybe 5 years ago, the sales manager for the RLC at that time was really keen on them and go, okay, it seemed like there was a growing market. So we pushed and pushed, and
Yep.
Eventually we convinced the management, yeah, we should bring those in. And they have proven that
They've gone really well.
a growing market and they're selling quite well. So that was one we did push a little bit to say, yep, there is a market there. And these are the same couple of key management who'd gone through and involved and bringing the other ones over and go, they don't sell here, we had to give the other ones. You got to make sure that doesn't happen. So fortunately, that's been good. I suppose going back to those 60 volt, I've got a couple of the sales reps who keep bugging me about expanding that, and I think the little the stick edger is one, and the multi tool in that Flex Force range are probably a couple we would like to have to the range, but those, because they're electrical, there is all that electrical compliance. We will take an international version, which is Europe and Australia. So it's a matter of really justifying those volumes to get those versions created for us and added to it. But those are probably a couple of the key products if we could get those ticked off. But they're working in the background.
I will say, before we talk about the stand-on spreader sprayer, we didn't talk about the stand-on mowers, right? And they are very popular. There is a range. It's just kind of, there's so many things to talk about at Toro, because this is a problem with this podcast. This is a problem with you, Brian, and Toro, is you have so many products that someone's going to get, eventually going to get to this, in this product and go, I can't believe you didn't talk about this. I can't believe you didn't talk about the Pro Stripe 560 or whatever, or the, I've got
someone will mention the Pro Stripe.
Well, we got it right here. Let's put it. It's a roller mower for a rotary. It stripes up. They are available in Australia. But you get the idea. Let's talk about them for a second. But there will be things that we didn't talk about. But one of the things before we get into this is you do have a battery stand-on available right now, correct? And again, I know, because I've talked to somebody who bought one over here in WA. I don't know. Have you sold many yet? Are they kind of well?
I think there with the stand-ons, we've actually got a couple in stock and they have gone out. I actually don't know how many are sold through to the end users. I think there has been a couple in. I think WA, there's the dealer over there has sold a couple of those. Yeah,
I think it was the guy who's got government contracts, and again was the emissions target stuff. I think he said it was in the mid-50s. Is that kind of... So, which is kind of what you were saying, the sit down was 70,000 or something. So, but again, people got to work that out. It exists. If you want to have a look at it, go to the Toro dealer. Now let's get back to the Pro Stripe 560 and then the stand-on spreader sprayer. But this, for people who don't know, it is a rotary mower with a roller on the back to stripe up. How do these go in Australia in terms of sales? Are they that popular? Because it's quite a niche requirement, right?
They are a bit of a niche product. We don't sell massive amounts. These are popular in the UK for soccer fields. They go through after the match to pick up all the bits and bobs, give a nice stripe finish. Here, probably less of that. These are more about those people who essentially want to buy one of our Greensmasters, one of the cylinder type mowers. But not spend the money on a new one of those. And these are, as far as maintenance go, a lot easier than a cylinder mower, but still give you that proper stripe with the
Do you
the
have
roller.
the price point on here? No, we don't.
I
You can
can't
look it up.
remember.
Well, I will say as well, while you're looking up the price, is the reason why everyone knows I'm a cylinder mower lover, but the reason why we're not talking too much about the cylinder mowers is the reality is that they are really golf course greens cutting machines, and if you are managing a golf course or you're a greens keeper listening to this podcast, you guys kind of know what you're looking at. Those machines have been around for a very, very long time. It's not a new machine, all that kind of stuff. And if you are a contractor, it's kind of not the right tool. You've got wheels that go on the side and those things stick out. You can't go right up next to a wall. It's a fit for use kind of thing. If you are a contractor who's doing putting greens, maybe you should consider it. But the price, he's got the price now.
The price on those is high 3,000s, getting up. It's not quite 4,000, but
So in that ballpark.
3,700.
And the cut width on it is at 560 millimeters. Is that what the thing is, or that's just a
Yes,
random number?
56 centimeters, which is, was it 22 inch, 23?
Yep, something like that.
Around that mark.
But yeah, somewhere around there. So there you go, people. If you're interested, that's available. But I want to go to the stand-on spreader sprayer, and I think this is a great thing to finish this podcast on, because this is one of those machines that, again, it's not a million people are going to want to buy it, but there are some people out there who do the acreage stuff, and this is the thing that they've been looking for. And what it is, for those who don't know, it is a stand-on machine that is a fertilizer spreader and a herbicide or fertilizer or a wetting agent sprayer as well, and it's in one. And there's a lot of different technology that helps you apply correctly and all that kind of stuff. And again, I know someone who owns one. They're just, yeah, they're good roundabout machines. I've never touched one. I'm not. By the way, people know this. I'm not I don't get paid to these podcasts at all. We're not charging anybody a cent, because it's just, this is my honest opinion. They're cool machines. What do you like about them, Brian?
Again, they're that little niche product that just fits in where it's too big an area to do by hand, too small to get a big ride-on or tractor-mounted sprayer or spreader. So you can go around, you sit on the back. It's actually reasonably intuitive to drive around. They zip along quite nicely. You can spot spray, so you got that little one there going. If you've got a garden bed, just spot weed spray, or you can then broad spray on, say, a turf area, whether it be fertilizer, herbicide, whatever it is, and the spreader at the front. I think it's come with 20 odd kilos, I think you put in the front. So just that spreader, and actually spreads quite wide. Can't remember the exact specs, but it's 4 or 5 meters it'll spread.
It doesn't
So
have the
good little versatile machine.
Yep.
For a contractor, again, if the home lawns, maybe it's a little bit of an overkill, but if it's got that next size up, it's someone with a bit of an estate, larger house, or a more of a small business, a school, where it's too small for it to get your big ride-on gear, but way too big to sit there with one of those little Scott.
Walk behind. Yeah. Or the Ryobi battery-powered one that's carries about 2 kilos in it. You'll be there for a while doing that. I do want to say that what I've heard is that when you have employees, you can put settings on there. When people are nervous about over-applying or under-applying because you've got some ploy on there, the settings are there for you. So it's quite a simple, just chuck it in, follow the contours of the lawn you're applying it to, and you're sorted. So, I mean, what's the price point on this? Again, this is very niche, and this is why talking about.
Again, in that low 20s. So it's not it's a big investment if you've got a smaller round.
But it's not. It's not the $200,000 mower we started with.
It's not a $200,000 mower. Like as we've said, it's if they've got those larger areas, it's about efficiency. It's about man hours. Trying to reduce that. If you can do something a third of the time, charge the same amount. That's where your justification comes from.
Exactly. Now, I've got one more question for you, Brian, and it's a little bit it's gonna might challenge you a bit, and I didn't give you warning, right? But let's say hypothetically, Brian, there's a fire at every single Toro factory in the entire world, right? And batteries are safe, right? Because if fuel's still safe as well. So when you get the equipment, you can use it. You're able at every single Toro factory that's being burnt. Sorry, you're able to save one single product, right, or one single tool, I should say. And so it can still be sold. That's why the batteries are available, because you don't want to save a battery tool and then not have any batteries left. If you have that magical ability to save things, what is the one thing that you're going to save that Toro can still sell, still give to the market? The thing that you think is essentially the best rounded or the best product that you do not want to lose from the market?
We've got some nice, cool products now with those Revolution gears, but I know probably one of my favourite products, and back to when I was selling for the Golf, that Realmaster 3100 you've spoken about, the Sidewinder.
Yep.
That was always probably my favourite product, because when it came to market, essentially, and our previous ones were, again, a three-wheel surrounds mower. And for those who are not aware of them, they're three-gang cylinder mower, primarily used for golf course surrounds or small sports fields.
Yep.
So generally a general versatile cylinder mower. But when this came to market, the ones on the market had two wheels at the front, one at the back. The engine was at the front, so you sort of sat on them like a horse. The engines were loud and noisy. It wasn't particularly comfortable. They were a pain to maintain. You got the two cylinders at the front, one at the back.
Yep.
Yeah, they did the job, but they weren't the best. When this came out, it was, again, two wheels at the front, one at the back, but the engine they put at the back, so it was much more comfortable to sit on. The engine was out the way; it was nice and comfortable to use. They added the traction system was brand new, where it was the series hydraulics, so you had really good traction to it. You go up a hill, the weight was on the back tire, and as long as that didn't spin, you basically go anywhere. They added the Sidewinder feature where the cutters move side to side, so you could mow right up to next to a bunker without the risk of falling in like you do on the others where you got 2 inches you got to work with. So there was it was nice to use. It had some really good key features and still has. So it was that no-brainer. They were a nice machine. They work well. There's no reason why yes, they were more expensive, but you could justify it. And they've basically become the go-to surrounds mower. Really, since that, it's always been that. If I was to pick a favourite machine, that would probably be it. As much as there's lots of other cool bits of tech around.
I knew it'd be tough for you because of the range. But what I love about this question that I've been asking to people is everybody is saying something different, and you can almost put together an entire catalog of products that you need based on just the one. So you would have this from Toro and this from someone else and this from somebody else, because no one has actually said the same thing.
Sorry, no, Toro's got them all.
I'm just saying hypothetically from this list, no one else has said. I mean, I don't think anyone else we've talked to even sells a ride-on cylinder mower, but nobody has even mentioned cylinder mowers yet as their best product that they would. And it's a fascinating thing. But yeah, look, I can totally see it. It's a very common mower over here in WA, and it's sort of like it's used in parks and things like that as well, where they do want the cylinder cut.
Yeah.
School ovals, school surrounds, building surrounds, and that's why we were considering getting one for the school. In the end, we had to get a rotary style because of the leaves, and they're just a pure number of leaves that need to be picked up by rotary. But yeah, like it's good bit of kit. Anyways, thank you so much for coming on, Brian, and fascinating. Good to talk about Toro. Where do people find Toro if they want to go purchase some stuff?
So their local Toro dealers have got 130, 140 dealers around the country.
Yep.
Majority of those will be at what we call our RLC dealers,
Mm-hmm.
which go up to all our consumer time cutters, all the handheld push mowers, right up through our Z Masters, including the Revolution. Then for large gear, there's a select number of commercial dealers. Obviously, once you get into commercial, those large $200,000 machines, there's a whole lot of mechanisms and
Yep.
stuff that needs to go on that pre-delivery, whole lot. That we've got about 10 of those around the country.
Yep.
And the guys who are into that
They know
market
where that is.
are
Yeah.
aware of those dealers.
Exactly.
And yeah, but all the rest of our dealers will go right through up through our Z Master range. So
Yeah.
plenty of those around.
And I think there's a couple of things at Bunnings as well. If for the small,
We've got a couple of products through there. Yeah.
but mostly probably support those dealers if you're wanting to get the full range of stuff. But anyways, Brian, thank you so much for coming on. And people, if anything's of interest, reach out to them and all that new stuff coming in that hasn't even reached yet. Maybe something worth planning for. And everybody, I will see you in the next podcast.